Madam Chair, we are recording at this point.
Very good. So I'm going to start the meeting if that's all right with everybody. I think we have a lot of people, but I think we're all on. So let's just get started. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our town council meeting for Monday, January 25th, 2021. It is 7 o'clock. And Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
James Morelli. Christopher Palmieri.
Here.
Christopher Poulos.
Here.
Paul Chaplinsky.
Here.
Michael Del Santo. Valerie DePaolo. Here. William Dietzick. Not with us. Tom Lombardi.
I am here.
Victoria Triano.
I'm here also. Thank you, everyone. Could we stand for the prayer, Madam Clerk?
Heavenly Father, may we consider the people of Southington and always render what is right and just for our citizens. Help us be compassionate while still seeking what is appropriate for the entire community. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. You may be seated. May I have a motion for our last meeting minutes, please?
I'll make.
So moved, Madam Chair. Mike Del Santo.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mike and Chris. Any discussion on them? Any additions or deletions? Hearing none, we'll move the motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstentions? Hearing none, I see it goes through unanimously. Thank you, everybody.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
It's Mark. I could barely hear you. I'm not sure if it's just me or everybody else, but can everyone else hear Vicky?
A little light.
Yeah, maybe just, yeah.
I can fix it. Is this any better? Hello?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, I'm not sure where you would like to do it. I have a couple agenda items that I wanted to add when it's appropriate for you.
Yes, I think we'll do that right after the steps presentation, if that's all right.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, very good. So our first item of business under Council Matter Communications is to recognize one of my very favorite organizations in the community, our STEPS program. And Paul, I see that you are helping them with their presentation. That's wonderful. And so, Megan, are you going to start us off?
I am proud to let the students on the call take the lead.
Terrific. So we will begin.
Good morning, good evening. My name is Mary Milner, and I'm here with my fellow youth council members, Rihanna and Elijah. Thank you for having us here to present to you, Town Council. We appreciate your support over the years. So this is a brief presentation. So since 2009, Southington's townwide effort to promote success, STEPS, is our Community Substance Misuse Prevention Coalition. We strive to make prevention a priority here in the Southington's community through education, limiting access, and policy change. Our work specifically focuses on underage drinking, tobacco, marijuana, and prescription drug prevention. In addition, we follow the Search Institute's 40 developmental asset model. So the more assets the youth have, the more likely they will grow up to be caring, competent, and successful individuals. The STEPS current initiatives include alcohol misuse prevention, tobacco and vaping misuse prevention, prescription misuse prevention, marijuana misuse prevention, and asset building community. So we get our data from a survey that we give to the Southington youth in grades 7, 9, and 11 every 2 years. The survey we use is the Search Institute's Attitudes and Behavior Survey. It has 160 questions, and it basically gives a snapshot of the current experiences and perspectives of adolescent youth in Southington. There are 40 developmental asset checklists as well as substance use and misuse in the survey. And the additional supplemental survey, which is just Southington specific, only has 14 questions. And it includes questions including vaping, access and location of use, frequency of use, stress, and a trusted adult. So the survey gives a snapshot of substance use, other risk-taking behaviors, and current social norms among the Southington youth in middle school and high school. With this data, like comparing it from the 2009 data when we started handing out the survey, we can see what we've improved on and what's working, and then we can see what we aren't, like what isn't improving and what we need to be focusing on.
So these are our survey demographics. As you can see, our surveys are conducted through 7th, 9th, and 11th grade. And we had a mixture of male and female results. Obviously, we got 46% male and 54% female. Next slide, please. So we emphasize on developmental assets, and assets are positive experiences, opportunities, and personal qualities that all youth need to be healthy, responsible, successful, and caring. A research-based framework that identified basic human development, including skills, experiences, and relationships and behaviors. So our external assets include support, empowerment, boundaries and expectations, and constructive use of time, while internal assets include commitment to learning, positive values, social competencies, and positive identity. So, as we all know, developmental assets protect against risk-taking behaviors, and this is just a graph of the data. Next slide, please. These are the developmental asset levels as reported by Southington Youth. So in 2009, that's the Southington average in 2009, which is the baseline. 2020 Southington average, and the national average is on the right. Next slide, please. As the asset levels increase, the past 30-day substance use decreases, and that's what we try to aim for. The more assets we push out, the less substance abuse is happening. Next slide, please. And the past 30-day substance use rates among youth have gone down. So the gray is Southington, the orange is Connecticut, and the blue is United States. If you can look at the chart, we see that prescription drugs doesn't have a Connecticut, it doesn't have a bar for Connecticut. That's because Connecticut didn't have a baseline for prescription drugs at the time of this graph was taken. Next slide, please. And prevention reduces risk-taking behavior. And we're happy to report that because Southington has made prevention a priority, youth are making healthier choices.
So this data shows that most risk-taking behaviors are decreasing among Southington youth. It shows since 2009 all the way to 2020, there has been a drastic decrease in risky behaviors among youth. Next slide. So here's a list of students who have lower past 30-day substance use rates. These are students who include having a trusted adult or feel that they could go to a parent for help, who are succeeding in school and resisting danger and delaying gratification, who have low to moderate stress levels around academics, and whose parents disapprove of substance use. And there are higher 30-day use rates around students who identify as bisexual, gay, or lesbian, and who identify as Hispanic or Latino or Latina, and students who report feeling sad or depressed, who are suicidal, and who do not have an adult in their life that they could trust, and who have an eating disorder, gamble, ditch school, and partake in other high-risk activities. And here is a graph of the 30-day use rates among vaping devices among Southington youth. So among 11th graders who report using nicotine in their vapes, 29% of those students vape nicotine 1 to 2 times a week, and the vast majority, 71%, vape nicotine every single day. And among 11th graders who report vaping cannabis, 62% of those vape 1 to 2 times per week, and 39% report vaping cannabis every single day. Obviously, we know that vaping is popular among youth, and Southington is not alone in this issue. We have a forefront of school-based prevention efforts, and we have state funding that has specifically been focusing on vaping prevention initiatives. And we are happy to announce that Southington is a state leader in vape education and intervention.
An important part of the survey that we give out to the students is the perceived risk of harm, and this shows how risky students think each behavior is. So any type of substance, any risky behavior, we see how much of a risk they think it is. Next slide. So the perceived risk of harm is lowest around marijuana use, which is obviously alarming because you can tell in 7th grade when we first handed out the survey, it was 83% of students thought that marijuana was extremely risky and extremely dangerous. But then it went down to only 52% students thought that marijuana was risky, which is alarming. But the other statistics have almost all of them have gone up. Okay, so our data also shows that, next slide. Academics causes the most day-to-day stress among students. As you can see in this image, academics and college/post-high school planning causes the most stress among the students, and this is also another issue because all of the other stuff can be controlled, like friends and social media and all of that, but academics is something that's a necessity. Okay, and also another important thing is that 44% of the youth that are surveyed do not have a trusted adult, and having a trusted adult is extremely important for development and having someone to rely on and being able to talk to someone and you know you can talk to someone. Next slide. And alcohol is still a factor. Alcohol is still the main substance of consumption by youth, but because of our prevention efforts, the past 30-day use of alcohol by Southington students has gone down by 11 percentage points in the past 10 years from when we started handing out the survey. Southington students still do report that alcohol is the easiest substance to obtain, and out of everyone who drinks alcohol, of all the students who drink alcohol, 31% of them obtain the liquor from their homes without adult permission, which we are trying to combat this issue by coming up with liquor stickers because the sticker goes over the cap of the bottle. So if someone tries opening the bottle, the sticker tears. So it's obvious to the parent that their underage daughter or son is, drinking alcohol. So our work is not done. Prevention is a marathon, not a sprint. So it's going to take us a while to get extreme statistical differences. But as you can see, most of the data is working in our favor and it's going well. And what we're doing is working. And be sure to sign up for our STEPS monthly newsletter and follow us on Facebook to stay up to date with everything.
So if this is Megan, if I can just add, these are 3 amazing students from the STEPS Youth Council, and we have about 35 students this year that we work with. We meet every 2 weeks, and congratulations, guys. You did such a great job, and I'm so proud of you.
Really did. It was a really good presentation. I know that Mr. Palmeri is involved with your group. Is that correct still, Megan? Chris, is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, yes, Chris is a very valued STEPS advisory board.
Very good. And also, I think Mr. Lombardi has done time with STEPS also, right?
He has, yes. He's been on our STEPS advisory board too, and I see our STEPS advisory board president, Mark Pooler, is joining us tonight. So we're very excited. We have such a great team of people that we get to work with that make prevention a priority here in Southington.
You know, for me, it's really a dream when I see these young people stepping up and doing the critical analysis and looking at the data and making a difference in the life of every kid at the high school and at the junior high schools. You know, I was the founders with John Myers and Sue Saucier and a few others, but it was only a few. And so it's very exciting to see the progress, but you have great leadership on that advisory board. I'm going to open it up to the council members.
Madam
Chris,
Chair?
well, I'm going to recognize Chris, please, first. Okay?
Please.
I will get to you. Chris,
Thank you. You know, I just want to commend Elijah, Mary, and Megan and Mark. I know we're talking about doing these types of presentations to other groups. Oh yeah, it was powerful to hear it from the kids. You know, so maybe we want to revisit that and look at maybe recording the kids or having the kids come with us when we do these presentations. And as I think you're all aware in the council, this data is collected every 2 years, and we try to compare and monitor our progress. So we're trying to use data and facts gathered right from our own community in order to justify the work of our group. And again, Elijah, Mary, and Rihanna, I am so, as Megan said, so proud of you guys. It was phenomenal. Elijah, I miss seeing you every day at school, so it's great to see you on the video. And really, you guys did a fantastic job.
Excellent. Okay, Tom, you had your hand up, and then I think, Paul, you had your hand up as well.
Yes, excellent job to all involved. Not only is it a very important subject matter that they're talking about, but I also want to commend the middle school and high school, I believe it is, but for the presentation skills. That's just, it's phenomenal that you guys are doing this and getting good practice in. So you're really doing two great things at once. So keep it up.
Great. Paul?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I was going to hit on something similar to Mary, Elijah, and Rihanna. You know, it says a lot that you were chosen or that you raised your hand or a combination of both to be the ones to represent STEPS here tonight. I can say, you know, wholehearted that you did an outstanding job. We very much appreciate everything that STEPS does in our community. If there's anything I can do for you, please, I'm happy to help out in any way. You know, my son was in STEPS, and, you know, I wanted to thank Chris Palmieri because, you know, he helped activate my children into STEPS. My son now is in college, and my daughter's in STEPS today as a sophomore. And, you know, the message that I want to pass to you is keep up the great work. Don't be afraid to spread the message to other places other than, you know, these boards. Talk to your friends about it. Have difficult discussions once in a while when it's comfortable for you to have, and challenge each other to continue to do better, like it is very apparent that you're doing. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you, everybody. Yes, Chris?
Just one more thing, if I could add. We extremely fortunate, Vicki, you remember from the inception, we've had Kelly Lepard really leading the charge with STEPS, and could not have asked for a better selection with Megan Albanese, who took over the reins. Megan and Kelly were inseparable when they were together. I mean, really hand in hand. They were the dynamic duo, I guess. You know, they really worked well together. So we are so very fortunate to have Megan continue the work that was started. And Megan, great job. And I know you worked with our students to make sure everyone was as prepared as possible. And just want to give you a shout out.
You jumped me on that, Chris, because I was going to go the same place, but that's wonderful. I think,
Madam-
Val, yes, of course, Val, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I just want to echo, obviously, what everybody's been saying. Megan, great job, and to the students, excellent job. I find it very interesting, the statistics. So it sounds like you really look at these statistics from the surveys. Just a couple questions. When you see that you have some areas that you can concentrate on, do you shift gears a bit to focus on those areas? You know, like you talked about the stress from academics.
Yes.
And so I find that interesting. So are you able to shift gears and maybe focus on so, or even the populations that you showed that, have a higher incidence of this behavior.
Yes, absolutely. So that's the best part about the data. We can look at where we're going, we can see the trends, and we can constantly change things. When they first started doing the survey back in 2009, prescription medication misuse wasn't even on the radar. So they weren't even tracking for that. So that's just a perfect example of how something over time we had to change. So we're looking at academics, we're looking at the stressors, suicide, of course, substance use rates, perception of harm, that's a huge one. So we're able to look at all that, look at what our kids are telling us, and then really plan from there.
Right. I think that's been great because you're getting it, right from the sources, from the students, and an excellent job. So happy to have you doing this work.
Thank you, Val. Everybody make sure that you're muted unless you're ready to speak. So, because there's a lot of background noise. I just wanted to mention Mark Pooler, an organization needs great leadership, and you got a home run with Mark. And so I'm very happy. Congratulations, Mark. I know you're very proud. And we're very happy to see this program continue over and over again. It's so inspiring. Thank you, everybody. All right. We appreciate it. And we're going to move on now. So if you want to stay, of course, you can stay on the meeting, but I think you might rather watch something on TV other than bobbleheads on the screen. So anyway, it's up to you. So listen, we received a letter from Andy Mead recently, very recently, and Andy needs to step off of the ethics board. And so he's asked us to remove him from the ethics board, making an opening. And so I'm looking for a motion to add that to tonight's agenda because there is a name. Paul?
Yep, I'll make that motion, Madam Chair, to add an item for an ethics board appointee.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I will second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed or anything? Okay, that's very good. So it will go on our agenda under appointments, item 2, ethics board, to replace Andy Mead's tenure on the ethics board. Great. Anyone have any council matter communications that you'd like to bring up tonight? Chris?
Yes, I just want to thank the Board of Education. Val and I had the pleasure of attending the workshops, and honestly, having them virtual really made it a little bit easier because we were able to follow along with the budget and listen to the presentation. So as we enter into budget season, this was really the kickoff for it. So last Tuesday and Thursday, both nights, the Board of Ed presented their budget. So it was great to be able to participate in that. Some Board of Finance members were there as well. So really informative, great information for us to have as we move forward with the process.
Great, Chris. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Chris Poulos.
Yes, Madam Chair. Just wanted to take a moment. Late last week, last Thursday, Councilman Chaplinsky and I had the opportunity to meet with our director of the Health District, Shane Lockwood, for an update on the COVID-19 situation in our town and throughout the Health District. He provided some answer to our questions, been provided lots of information about vaccination timelines and links to some of these websites that might guide people through this process as we move forward. And so I will submit this to the record so that it's public information. We did put out a posting on the Facebook, but not everyone's on that platform. So we will. I will email in the summary that we developed collaboratively to the town clerk for inclusion in the minutes.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Tom?
Thank you. Just to piggyback off of the same subject that Councilman Poulos had, I would like to publicly thank Hartford Healthcare. I think there was a news story that recently came out that they are going to be doing vaccinations in town And I apologize, I don't have the exact specifics. I'm not sure if they're out there, but I do know that Hartford Healthcare did make that announcement. So, and I would just say, I would point people to the Hartford Healthcare website for locations and times and things like that. So
It's right on Queen Street. I forgot the number on Queen Street, but it's right up there on Queen Street on the left as you're coming, going north on Queen Street. And you're right, Tom, they would have to make an appointment, as all of the venues are. And we are very grateful that there's an added place so that our
thank you.
moms and
And
dads, don't have to go to Hartford. They can come right to Southern.
And just one additional thing, a friendly reminder that the Polar Plunge is rapidly approaching on February 27th. We've all seen the advertisements on social media and the newspaper and everything. So far, I have commitments to jump representing the town council from Councilman Palmieri, Councilman Poulos, Councilman Del Santo, and I believe Councilman Dietzick has signed in. So we should have good representation this year.
Nice try, Tom. Nice try.
I'm going to be standing with the firemen there.
Okay.
I'm with you, Tom.
So
Don't worry.
close.
I'm with you. Sign me
Thanks.
up.
Great. Anybody else have any council matter communications? I want to make sure.
I do, Madam Chair. Just
Yes, go ahead, Paul.
adding on, I wonder, as we start to get into a very important area where our citizens are trying to sign up for the vaccinations, and there's a lot of uncertainty, I think, about where to go. And, we're continuing to try to provide information there. The health department is it worth having a standing agenda item with the health director or somebody from the health board to give us a little bit of an overview for each of our meetings, or once a month until, we see how things are going with this?
I think that would be great. I don't feel necessarily that Shane has to give it, but at least he can provide the information for us. So we'll have it at every meeting, and
Yeah.
perhaps the town manager can fill in the blanks or whatever as needed. But I think people are interested.
Yeah.
and certainly be
Madam Chair, I do, as you know, I have at least 3 conference calls a week with
Yes, I know
Jane.
you do.
As of this moment, we are in, as you know, 1B. We've gotten, I think, about 27, 28% of the 75 and above up at this point. So we certainly could give briefings on that, but we're going to be, for the next many weeks, we're going to be in the 75 and above, and then 65 and above. Certainly teachers and town staff are not in the near future at this point. So certainly I talk to Shane when something I think is important. We email it directly to the council, but if something pops up, I'll certainly invite Shane to any meeting that's required.
That'd be great. Thank you, Mark. That'd be great. So until we all get vaccinated, make sure you're washing your hands and putting your mask on and stand your 6 feet apart. So, all right. Anybody else? Okay, great. Let's go down to reports of special committees. The Apple Harvest Festival Committee, Tom and Chris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilman Palmieri and myself met with the Apple Harvest Advisory Committee on January 13th. Some pretty standard planning procedures. We approved the vendor booth fees and arts and crafts fees, the electrical vendor, carnival vendor, and entertainment vendor are all going to be the same that we've had in previous years. We did talk briefly about the budget, and at this point, it's a very flexible budget, I will say, because there still is some lingering uncertainty due to COVID. But I would say planning is underway, and we also did have one member of the public join on to our meeting, which was good. And this member is interested in volunteering for the festival. So I think it's important to point out that if somebody's interested in volunteering, certainly reach out to Councilman Palmieri or myself, or email Dave LaPrey directly. But other than that, nothing major to report at this point, and we will be reporting every month going forward. Councilman Palmieri, I don't know if there's anything else of significance that we would like to mention.
Just to elaborate on one thing you mentioned, I'd like to thank our returning vendors, because for the most part, everyone maintained their price for us.
Right.
So that really shows their willingness, their understanding of the situation. And we really want to try to move forward with the festival. But it's so hard to plan when there's still so many unknowns going on. So I just want to thank the vendors that agreed to maintain their prices for us. It made our decisions a lot easier.
Right.
Very good. Let's move on to item B, the sewer committee meeting. Was anybody there? I know Bill is on it, but I don't know.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Val.
Yes, Councilman Dietzick asked if I would give the report.
Great.
Okay, so just briefly, the plant upgrade is approximately 95% complete, which is great. There's a substantial completion date of July 30th, 2021. And with the change orders to date, we've used 3.4% of the 5% contingency. So that's under, which is really good. And I believe they're probably anticipating maybe less change orders because the construction is nearing completion, and it sounds like there'll be more testing that will be getting done. So that's one of the major projects. The townwide sewer lining rehab was given to Granite Inliner LLC, and the town staff is looking at the budget to possibly put some funds in there for lining items to complete the old borough area in town. So that's something that's, will be very beneficial. And then the only other thing for us tonight is the committee did approve the sewer equity application for the Murfield Estates, which is on our agenda a bit later in the meeting.
Yep. Okay, very good. Thank you, Val.
Thank you. Yep.
Self-insurance?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you. Councilman Poulos and myself attended the self-insurance meeting on January 20th, which was last week. We reviewed the budget year to date and 6 months into the current fiscal year, which is fiscal year 2021. The self-insurance fund is approximately a little bit under $2.2 million under budget year to date. So we had a discussion on that, and obviously we've been saying the same thing for months now. A lot of the under budget status is due to COVID and people maybe not getting procedures done, but we're seeing an increase month over month. So the self-insurance committee is well aware that the overage is going to have to be looked at. So we're looking at some kind of a plan that we will be presented to the council to try to reduce the fund balance over, say, a 4-year period. I don't know if it's going to be 3 years or 4 years, but the fund is very healthy. And quite frankly, it's a little bit too healthy. So we want to eventually pull it down to a manageable level without creating a massive fiscal cliff where you take all of the reduction in 1 year and then the following year you're going to get a big hit. So there was no additional action on the change to the fiscal year 21-22 budget allocation yet. There may be in subsequent months. And Councilman Poulos did a nice job of writing up the summary from the meeting, which is included in our package tonight. So any questions on that? Or Councilman Poulos, do you have anything further to add?
Yeah, I'll just add one thing. As Councilman Lombardi mentioned, there's this discussion about utilizing funds from our fund balance over the course of several years. And the whole COVID overage is something, it's something new. We're continually working with Anthem and our consultant to try to understand it, so we make fiscally responsible decisions. But we're going to take a look in the months to come at the fund balance policy and look at the language related to the use of reserve funds over the course of multiple years, like the planning and use of funds over multiple years. We have language in there, but nothing specific. So we just want to tighten it up a little bit And that language would, and the policy, updated recommended policy would come to the council for review. But we just want to ensure the community that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's as we go forward with this concept of using some of the fund balance to offset our budget in the years to come.
Very good. Yeah. It's a difficult thing because we don't know how we're going to get hit with the COVID situation once it kind of dissipates a little bit and people who have put off procedures and that kind of stuff are going to go back. And so I'm glad you're being very cautious on the self-insurance committee. So that's very good. Okay, very good. Any other special committees? Okay, hearing none. The town manager's report and communication.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first item I have is the report of the Board of Finance. Most of the minutes were taken up by the presentation by our auditor for the annual audit report. I'll boil it down to the good news, obviously, is that we received a clean letter, which means that they approved of all our policies and procedures. They were very impressed by the town's financial organization, and that is a direct correlation to Amelia and her staff. Congratulations to Amelia. I know she's on the call for our presentation, but as you all know, I don't have to tell you, but I'll tell the public, she does an excellent job. And in all the years I've been here, the auditors have always talked about how impressed they are with the financial abilities of the town of Southington. So that's directly Amelia and her staff. So thank you very much on that. Also in the financial minutes, you'll see that for, I think, the fourth month in a row, I'm going to tell this to you. The town clerk's office and the building department are way above budget. So therefore, any small deficiencies we've had so far in our operating budget have been more than offset by the fees being brought in from the town clerk's office and the building department. I know Rob is on the call and I know Kathy's on the call. Thank you to both of those departments who've been working very hard on this. So answer any questions you have on the Board of Finance.
Anybody?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Val? Yeah.
Mark, I noticed in the minutes where a question was asked about the insurance being, whether the audit team looked at the insurance and the coverages, and they do not. So it just kind of raised the question for me, who looks at that to ensure that, is that done on a yearly basis?
Actually, it's on a quarterly basis. The town's financial team is made up of Amelia, myself, and Sherry Danello. We meet quarterly with the staff of KERMA. We go through our policies. We ask if what's new in the world of insurance, whether our deductibles and whether our caps are in good shape, and we get input from them. That's some of the reasons why we increased some of our cybersecurity insurance over the last couple of years. So yeah, that's a quarterly meeting we have with KERMA, which is our insurance for both workers' comp and lab.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Town Manager, for the explanation. I thought more of a statement than a question, but I thought it was also interesting. A lot of interesting topics brought up at the Board of Finance meeting. I did want to point out Mr. Morrison's statement or question to the auditors regarding the fund balance. He specifically asked the question of where the town stands compared to other towns, and it was stated that Southington's fund balance is on the high end as compared to other municipalities that the auditor looks at. So I know this is not a sarcastic comment, but the Board of Finance really did ask some good questions, and it seemed like an interesting meeting. So thank you to
it was, and they are of course open to the public like you guys. So obviously you can check on all of those. And yes, we are above the state average on our undesignated fund balance, and we're proud of that. Of course, we don't advertise it, but we are proud of that. Any other questions? Madam Chair, for the statutory reasons, I have to read my next one directly into the record, so bear with me.
Excuse me, Mark.
Yes.
I want you to just stop for a minute. Paul raised his hand. Paul, did you have a question for the town manager?
No worries. It was just a comment, and maybe rehashing a little bit, but it shouldn't go understated. It's not understated that the town is really running in great fiscal responsibility, great fiscal shape, and that's really setting us up for a lot of the good things that that we're investing in. The bond that we just got notice of, the low interest rate on that offering was outstanding, and it was evident from the email that we received that the company that was assisting us with that sees these things every day, but made made it a point to state at the end of that letter how amazing it is that we were able to secure such a low rate on the bond, and so that speaks volumes. Thank you, Amelia, and to all the staff. And I know, Mark, that you recognized Kathy in the town clerk's office, but just a special kudos there because in a normal year, it's a lot to keep up with a lot of the activities that are bringing in and staying ahead of pace on the budget in these items. But during a time like COVID, when we have extra precautions and maybe lower staff at times, I think we really should give some kudos to the town clerk's office and all those town employees who support the people in our community, the developers, the business people who day in and day out come in and require our town staff's help. And it hasn't been an easy go. I think everybody has felt pinches along the way, whether it's a small portion during COVID, that might have hit you personally or at work. But these are people day in and day out that are coming in and going to the office and working from home to ensure that our community is running smoothly, and that these type of revenue streams are what's keeping our budget afloat. And that's a real testament to the strength and the grit of our town staff. So thank you very much for everything you're doing there.
Great.
We're always proud of our team. All right, Town Manager B. This is an introduction to an ordinance appropriating $4,500,000 for costs related to the acquisition of development rights for Country Club Estates and authorizing the issuance of $4,500,000 of bonds and notes to finance the appropriation. I want to make some comments on this, but first I want to hand it off to the chair, who I know wants to make some comments.
Thank you, Mark. It is rare that an opportunity comes along in a council session of such magnitude as what we're about to hear. All of these folks that you see in the meeting that you don't normally see at a council meeting are all here focused on declaring some very important and wonderful news to the town of Southington. And there'll be plenty of time for kudos and thank yous in a while, but there's a presentation that Mark, you're going to begin, and the directors of many of our departments are going to add to. I want to thank each of them for all of the work that they did putting this presentation together. Of course, Paul, who wears numerous hats at our council meetings, because the data and the information is so important when we're looking at this life-changing appropriation. And so, Mark, I'm going to hand it back to you and for you to begin the presentation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the chair mentioned, this is a very unique opportunity for the town of Southington. In my years here at the town, I could probably count on one hand the opportunities such as this. I first want to thank the owners of Southington Country Club. It's been a while since the town approached them to talk about what we can do to preserve this property and hopefully make sure that it does not become a 114 lot subdivision. I'm happy to say that the owners of the property were very receptive. We are all very respectful of one another, and I believe now that we've come to a point where we feel comfortable coming to the council and bringing this to you. As the chair mentioned, a lot of work over the last several weeks have been put into this presentation you're about to see. I'd like to thank the staff that you're going to see tonight. I'd like to thank the chair for being part of the presentation. I'd like to thank Paul Czaplinski for being part of the presentation tonight. Especially, I'd like to thank Rob Phillips, who worked as my point person putting this presentation together. That being said, I'd like to introduce Rob Phillips, our Director of Planning and Community Development, to take over the presentation. And I will talk on the last slide. So please listen closely. I think you're going to be very impressed by this presentation. Rob?
Thank you, Mark. Good evening to all. Again, I'm Rob Phillips, Director of Planning and Community Development. I'll start off with the agenda for this. Let me share my screen first. Okay. So I'll go through the agenda for this presentation this evening. We're going to start off with open space strategy and a parcel history. We're going to move to planning and zoning. We're going to move then to educational impact. Then we're going to look at the financial assessment and infrastructure impact, and then community impact. To start us off, I'll turn it over to Paul Czaplinski, the chair of the Open Space and Land Acquisition Committee. Paul?
Thanks, Rob. And thank you to the town manager and also Madam Chair for giving me a few minutes to speak here. I'm going to go through three slides here to talk a little bit about the Open Space Subcommittee and talk a little bit about how the Open Space Subcommittee follows the Plan of Conservation and Development and identifies and vets opportunities for the community. Each time we get an opportunity, we look at primarily these 6 strategy elements that are outlined in our Plan of Conservation and Development, and we balance whether this particular parcel meets these criteria or not. And so you see, I've put in here the check marks. For example, the first one in the upper left-hand corner. This property meets the standard of public drinking water or supply, water supply and watershed, as it has an aquifer protection zone over most of the parcel. It also has surface water that we want to protect in the form of streams and ponds. It's a critical wildlife habitat. If you've visited this area of town, or if you've had the pleasure of playing golf there, or visiting the restaurant or the venue there, you've probably seen many different animals in the area on the course that people have enjoyed. These animals use this as a space to not only live, but also pass through. And not having something like a development there helps provide this opportunity for these animals. Of course, with an active recreation, a golf course, the parcel does have recreational opportunities. And you know, the parcel does have some rich history in town, which I'm going to touch on the next slide, as a farmstead back in the early 1900s and in the 1800s. And then finally, Rob's going to talk a little bit later. You know, we're used to seeing, when you talk about open space, if you will, people oftentimes think of you know, passive or hiking, but it's also important strategies to have development rights for what's called perceived open spaces. Large open spaces that a community benefits from by not having significant developments, but also can be a use of the community. Next slide, please, Rob. Okay. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the history of this parcel. I'd mentioned that it was a farm. The Horace Webster Farmhouse, which still exists today on South End Road, adjacent to the golf course, was part of the entire farm. So that was the farmstead. The Webster family not only owned this building, there was another building close by which was demolished on the same parcel, but also the entire golf course was farmland. In the early 1900s and in 1922, there was an agreement to create a lease. The Webster family, in conjunction with maybe a half a dozen others, formed a committee to bring a golf course, that first a 9-hole golf course, onto this parcel. And they leased the land and they put this first Fieldstone clubhouse, which still houses the primary clubhouse and the restaurant that we know today on site. Today, Southington Country Club is one of 2 golf courses that we have the opportunity to enjoy here in town, whether it's you know, on this side of town or the other side of town. And we recognize that this golf course is more than just you know, active recreation or playing a sport. There's people who come out and they meet there for meetings. There's people who meet friends there. They meet strangers and they play. There are people who walk up and play with other people that they don't know, just to have an opportunity to play and meet folks. There are people who recreate and come for gatherings such as charity events and weddings, and then regular dinners and lunches, you know, at some regular frequency. So, you know, places like these they become a center, a focal point in your community. And there's not, as you mentioned, Madam Chair, there's not often opportunities where you have large tracts of land like this that are approved for large developments over 100 houses, where a town or a community has an opportunity to engage with the owners, have a great discussion about how to preserve it, and actually have the opportunity to preserve it. And so if you go to the next slide, I'm going to leave you with just a couple quotes. You I mentioned that we don't often get opportunities like these. And so, as I was reflecting on what it is that, this parcel and this business brings to our community, I think of, how it boils down. Ben Hogan said in 1985, I found the game to be in all factualness, a universal traveled at home or abroad. And golf is labeled as one of the handful of life sports that people can play throughout their entire life, if they are so fortunate to have the opportunity. And they don't do it for just the sport. They do it because it's a friendship game, it's community building, and it's so much more when it comes to collaboration and being part of our community. And I will leave you with this before I turn it over to the professionals who are going to follow me. Mahatma Gandhi said, "The future depends on what you do today." And as I mentioned, Madam Clerk, we don't often get the chance to have opportunities like this, and I think we need to seize the moment. I am fully supportive of the plan that's here in place, and I'm very excited to move forward with this.
All right, thank you, Paul. Moving on to the planning and zoning section. This section will start off with the town attorney, Jeremy Taylor, and conclude with some comments from me. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Jeremy.
Thank you, Rob. Tonight I'm going to be talking about what does it mean to purchase development rights, along with why would a municipality purchase development rights in the first place, and then talk about the valuation of purchasing development rights. So what does it mean for the town to purchase development rights? Well, the purchase of development rights programs are one viable approach that state and local governments have to preserve farmland and open space. Purchasing development rights provides a way to financially compensate a willing landowner for not developing their land. When a town purchases development rights, the town obtains a grant of restriction and development rights, which permanently restricts the development on the land. However, the landowner does remain owner of the land and may use it or resell it for whatever restricted use that are on the grant. Now we go on to why would a municipality, a town like Town of Southington, purchase development rights? Well, PDR programs are a means to manage growth and provide the benefits of open space without the expense of a town having to purchase, maintain, and police these if the town were to buy them on their own. So PDR programs create the ability for a local government to limit or prevent development of land in accord with the community growth management and the town's land protection goals. Now we move on to how do we value the purchase of development rights? Well, the valuation is done by an appraisal. The value of the development rights usually is the difference between the fair market value of the best and biggest use for the property, which on this piece of land would be the subdivision development, which is already approved by the town. So it's the value between that and then the value of the land when the restricted use is put on there. The town hired an appraisal to do the appraisal of the purchase of development rights, and the appraiser came in at $4,700,000. In saying this, we are very grateful to the owners of the Southington Country Club because we were able to work with them and they worked with us to negotiate the purchase of the development rights down to the number of $4.5 million, which is $200,000 less than what the town appraisal came in at. So that is a big, significant number for them to agree to go down on the number with us to make sure that it's a good value for the town. And that's my presentation today. I will hand it back to Rob. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy. As with most things we do here in the planning department, we always look to our plan of conservation and development. That plan was updated in 2016. And in the early stages of that update, we had early public outreach meetings, and we had a number of issues that came forward through those public outreach meetings, and participants judged the town open space as one of the top town attributes. In fact, they did rank priorities in that meeting, and open space was ranked as the highest priority goal over natural resource protection, traffic and circulation improvements, and other community facilities and infrastructure. And And then diving deeper into the plan of conservation and development, some of the policies that were developed as part of the POCD review indicated, and it's on page 30 if you're looking at the plan. Number one, be proactive in preserving open space. Preserve as much open space as possible, especially as protected or dedicated open space. And I will talk briefly about those types of definitions on the next slide. And as opportunities arise, convert managed and perceived open space into dedicated, protected open space. Now, of the policies in the Plan of Conservation and Development, we also have tools that help us achieve those goals. And one of the tools on page 31 is the purchase of development rights for preservation of open space, farmland, and other purposes. Now, touching on the definitions in the plan, protected open space is open space that is protected by deed restriction, easement, or other encumbrance. A good example of that would be Hawks Landing Country Club. Dedicated open space is land owned by a public or nonprofit entity, which is expected to remain as open space in perpetuity. A good example of that is the Southington Land Trust that owns some properties in town. Managed open space is land owned and used for another purpose, which could include golf courses, as we're discussing this evening. And then perceived open space is private land, which is presently vacant or partially developed, but which has no protections at all from being developed. Properties in the Public Act 490 program, farmland, or in this case, the Southington Country Club are examples of perceived open space that folks may drive by and say that looks great, but unfortunately there's no protection from development. So the property in question that we're discussing this evening is located in this oval red circle. It's about 97 acres. And what you'll see here adjacent to that in purple is an example of a recently protected or dedicated open space, the Curtis Family Open Space property. And then you'll see in the green shaded areas are open spaces that were acquired by other means, typically from subdivision, dedication, or they serve another purpose like Recreation Park over here just to the west of the subject property. Now, it was mentioned earlier that this property has been approved for a subdivision. Here's the approved plan. It shows 114 lots, R2025. They're about around a half acre lot, half acre size lot. Obviously, an extensive road network is proposed here as well. And again, it's important to note that this can be constructed, commenced starting tomorrow, as early as tomorrow. So with that plan that's been approved, the development of that plan would disturb 2 acres of wetlands and water within upland review area. It would it would add 2 acres of stormwater detention basins, discharging to wetlands, 3 total basins. It would create a stream crossing from a roadway crossing, which would impact obviously further wetlands. A state-defined aquifer protection area is located on this property, and it's notable that Southington Well Number 2 is also nearby. It would disturb 9 acres of tree and shrub habitat. And the property is also listed under the Natural Diversity Database, which is state and federal listed species of concern. I'll touch a little bit more on that in the next slide. Preservation of this property would provide 77 additional acres of protected open space. The proposed 20 acres of open space on the development option are actually a majority of wetlands, so that really lends just to the use of passive recreation uses. Development rights of this property adds approximately 14% additional acreage to the 700 acres of previously purchased town space. That's both fee simple and purchase of development rights thus far in the town, and that's a substantial amount. Again, the Natural Diversity Database is a listing of data from the state of Connecticut that actually indicates areas where there's state and federal listed species that have been found or critical habitat that may support those species. You'll see down in the oval red oval again, you'll see that an area of concern is located on the western portion of the site. And again, the state will not divulge what species or habitat for those species is present for obvious reasons for protection. But it is notable that that a portion of this property lies within that area, and it's important to protect those resources. Now I'll pivot over to the educational impact a little bit. So there's sorry, page back here. So there's data out there that Rutgers University has produced, and basically what they've done is they've tried to account for the number of school-aged children that reside in new single-family home developments. Or actually, it's a bunch of data, but in this case, it would be single-family home developments. And these they're called residential multipliers. These are here to try to estimate the impact of the number of public school-aged children that might be produced by these developments. In our case here, we're looking at an average of 4 bedrooms per home. Some will be 3, some will be 5, but on average, it would work out to be 4 bedrooms. Obviously, with proposed 114 single-family home lots and the residential multiplier calculated together should yield an expected, and it could be higher, it could be lower, but an expected 108 public school-aged children would be produced from this proposed development. Now, taking the 2019-2020 net current expenditures per pupil, that's literally the amount of money that the local tax base has to spend educating each child in the public school system, of $12,250 times the 108 estimated public school children. We can estimate that the annual education cost for this potential development would be about $1.3 million annually in perpetuity. Obviously, that's a number that keeps happening every year, and in fact could grow. I also want to mention that the American Farmland Trust has accumulated data from all over the country, which shows that the cost of community services from residential land uses exceeds every tax dollar generated and is substantially higher than other land uses such as business and agriculture. So, in other words, for every dollar that's raised in tax revenue, residential costs $1.16. Obviously, the other land uses, business, agriculture, are far less than that, and that is certainly something to take note of. All right, and pivoting over to financial assessment, the next discussion will be about tax revenues of the current use and the potential subdivision. And with that, I'll turn it over to Teresa Babin, Director of Assessment and Revenue. Teresa?
Thank you, Rob. Good evening, everyone. So the first slide here is just going to start off by listing the current assessments from the golf course as it sits now. The real estate is actually comprised of 2 parcels, and the personal property assessment is the total of all personal property assets at that location. And that would include everything from the kitchen equipment, the tables, chairs, and other furniture and fixtures in the restaurant, down to the other equipment and golf carts used on the course itself. You'll see that when we apply this year's mill rate to the total current assessment of over $2.5 million, we'll get a total current tax revenue from the location of just over $79,000. And to calculate a potential revenue amount from the proposed subdivision, quite a few assumptions had to be made. While Southington does have many beautiful subdivisions to speak of, we've chosen the Woodland Heights subdivision off of Loper Street for a couple of reasons. It's a new development, and it's also an active development in that it's still being built out. So it's believed that the comparables that we are using are very legitimate. The average home in that development is a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath structure, averaging 2,300 square feet. And it's important to note that we're not using any additional outbuilding assessment in our calculations. We're not including any sheds, additional garages, or in-ground pool areas. So the only non-living spaces we are using are the decks, patios, and porches that are attached to the homes. Therefore, our average assessment per unit at $297,500 translates into a full value of $425,000. We also had to assume a motor vehicle component of tax revenue. And for that, we've assumed each unit being a 2-vehicle household carrying an additional $29,400 in motor vehicle assessment. So on the next slide, to calculate the potential revenue, we see a subdivision such as the one already approved bringing in. We're going to take the total real estate assessment of $297,500, add that to the total motor vehicle assessment of $29,400, and multiply that by the most recent mill rate we have of 30.63 to get a total tax revenue per unit of $10,012. And the calculations further show that that would result in a total tax revenue of $1.141 million for the approved 114 house subdivision.
All right, thanks, Teresa. We'll do a quick pivot to the bond costs of the proposed PDR, and that will be covered by Amelia Portolino, Director of Finance. Amelia?
Thank you, Rob. Next slide. Okay, we are proposing bonding the $4.5 million to purchase the for the acquisition of the development rights. If we do bond it, we're estimating that we can bond the $4.5 million over 20 years at 2.5%, which is a conservative estimate given that we just sold $15.5 million of bonds last week for 1.44%. But when you look at the chart and the estimate that I've come up with, that equates to an average annual bonding cost of $284,000 over a 20-year period. After the 20 years are over, we're done paying for it. Are there any questions? As you can see, the mill rate effect, the first year would be 0.08 mils, decrementing to 0.06 in the by the 20th year, and then obviously after that we wouldn't be paying it any further. All right.
Thanks, Amelia. I think we might want to hold questions to the very end.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on to impacts to the town's infrastructure. That will be presented by Annette Turnquist, Director of Public Works and Town Engineer. Annette?
Thanks, Rob. Okay, so there are 208 miles of road in Southington, and each road requires snow plowing, leaf collection, drainage maintenance, and eventually rehabilitation and reconstruction. If the Southington Country Club property were to be developed as previously presented, it would add approximately 6,610 linear feet of road. That equates to $5,277 in annual costs for snow and ice removal. Over the 20 years, subject to 2% annual inflation, the total would be $128,224. Now for leaf collection, it would be $1,801 annually for a total of $43,770 over 20 years. Drainage maintenance occurs every 4 years, and the development as proposed would have 3 detention ponds and about 52 catch basins. In year 4, the drainage maintenance would cost $3,066. In year 8, it would be $3,254. This increases a few $100s each.
Annette, I can't hear you. Does anyone hear her?
For some reason, you just went quiet.
She went quiet.
No.
No? Okay, hang on. Let me see if I'm connected.
Okay.
I'll just give Annette a little time.
Rob, why don't we circle back? Go to the next slide and then circle back.
Okay, moving on, we'll talk about the economic impacts to the community, and that will be covered by Lou Perillo, the Economic Development Director. Lou?
Thanks, Rob. The town's economic development supports buying the development rights for Southington Country Club. We recognize the value in this unique opportunity. As part of the town's economic development strategy, it's to expand upon our existing venues to further enhance Southington as a recreation destination. That's important because we can attract people from the region to come into Southington, and that helps support our local businesses. Golf courses provide quite a few opportunities. They provide great jobs, public outdoor sports entertainment, and charitable tournaments for fundraising that contributes to the social fabric of our community. Southington Country Club hosts about 40 tournaments a year, drawing over 3,000 participants, and the majority of the funds stay in our local community. The benefits of open space help balance growth in town. That balance is important because it can add value to the existing properties in town. It's our office's opinion that we don't need to destroy the golf course to build 114 houses. Houses can be built in other areas of town. However, the same can't be said for the golf course. Once this golf course is gone, it most likely will not be replaced. This statement is profound, but it's also evidenced with the fact that when the former Pine Valley Golf Course was sold, it was turned into a 95-house subdivision. The remaining portion was intended to remain a 9-hole course. That has not yet happened, probably because golf courses are not known to be very profitable, especially in the Northeast. Profit usually comes from the banquet and restaurant and dining areas and the cart revenues. That might help explain why Pine Valley's course has been left to be overgrown and not maintained. Our town has a rare opportunity to save one of our 2 remaining golf courses, or we can lose that course to build 114 homes. Like I said, once it's gone, it most likely will not be replaced. It's rare. My opening statement says we recognize the value, and that's because it's rare to get an opportunity to buy an approved subdivision. Usually, a developer would outbid the appraised value, preventing the town from the chance to even put in a bid or bring it to referendum. That actually happened on Loper Street and even the Pine Valley Golf Course. That's why this opportunity is so rare, and it's our hope that the town takes advantage of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. Annette, are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I think I cut out somewhere in the drainage maintenance. Is that correct?
Somewhere after that or before road maintenance.
Okay. So as I mentioned, the drainage maintenance occurs every 4 years. This development would have 3 detention ponds and about 52 catch basins. In year 4, the drainage maintenance would cost $3,066. It would increase a few $100s every 4 years until reaching $4,127 in year 20. As for rehabilitation and reconstruction, in year 7, we would likely crack seal. Subject to 2% annual inflation, this would cost $9,925. In year 20, the roads would likely need to be milled and overlaid at a cost of $641,968. Adding all of these maintenance costs together over the 20 years yields $841,609. And taking a simple average results in $42,080 per year. Now, this presents a 20-year period, but it is important to note that these costs would continue forevermore and would continue to increase with each passing year. Rob?
All right. Thank you, Annette. All right. So to summarize everything you've heard so far, the 2 options that we have before us right now, the subdivision option with a total tax revenue of $1.141 million, less the local education cost estimates, less the golf course revenue, and less the annualized maintenance costs that Annette just spoke of, would yield a approximately $300,000 deficit for the subdivision development. Obviously, over the 20+ years, this deficit grows. The preservation option, with the average annual bond costs of $284,000, would be relatively stable over the 20 years, and then 20 years that debt service ends, and then it would become a tax positive in perpetuity from that point forward. So taking both of those numbers and finding the difference between the 2 is about $19,000 in favor of the PDR. And again, these decisions are made now, and they have a real impact as time moves on. So to close on the criteria for open space acquisition in the 2015 open space plan, which was part of the Plan of Conservation and Development, or at least absorbed into that. Some of those criteria are listed here. Is the property in a public drinking water supply watershed? Yes, we've already shown that. Does the land offer surface water protection, streams, river, pond, lake, wetlands, vernal pools, aquifer areas? Absolutely, we discussed that as well. Does the site contain critical wildlife habitat as identified in the state's natural diversity database? Absolutely. Does the site provide recreational or educational opportunities? All open space does, especially in this case if it is retained as a golf course. Does the site contain important cultural resources? Paul went through that, and certainly it looks as though it satisfies that criteria. Does the site provide strategic green space in highly developed areas? Obviously, this is one of the largest, if one of two, I believe, largest undeveloped residentially zoned properties in the town. So certainly not taking this opportunity right now means that it could potentially be lost forever, and you have less opportunities moving forward. So with that said, here's a timeline. I'm going to turn it back over to Mark Schota, the town manager, to discuss the timeline moving forward.
Thank you, Rob. And I want to take this moment to thank Rob and the entire staff. It's been a long time since I've seen such a thorough and well-designed briefing, and I'm very proud of all of you. Thank you very much. The timing aspect of if the council chooses to move forward, obviously we're sitting here on January 25th. This is the introduction. If the council wishes to move forward, there's votes it would take tonight to send it to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the 824 and to request that the Board of Finance conduct a public hearing, which could be scheduled for February 10th. That being said, the council would then schedule their own public hearing for February 22nd, and this presentation or a shorter version of it will be given at that time. This presentation would be given to the Board of Finance, and Rob and his staff would give us a shorter presentation to the Planning and Zoning Commission. If all goes according to what's written here and the council chooses to move forward, our recommendation would be is that we go to the public on Tuesday, May 4th for a referendum. I hope that the council gives my staff and I the opportunity to move forward with this. We believe that we have very good reasons and arguments to present to the public on why this is a unique opportunity and why we're all very excited to move forward with this. Madam Chair, thank you very much, and my staff and I are here to answer any questions you have.
Thank you so much. I'm just as you are, Mark, so grateful to our staff for putting this together. This was an incredible feat. And I also want to speak to our residents and our citizens for just a second. And I want to say, if you have any questions, there was so much data in this. If you have questions, you want to talk about it further, please give a call to the town manager's office or to Rob Phillips, and let them explain it even further. This is incredible. We have an opportunity to prevent building. The biggest thing I hear from our residents is, oh, we're building too many houses. Can't we stop the building of houses? The development rights, the procuring of development rights is exactly the tool that we need to stop building houses. We are looking at 114 houses that could go in the ground tomorrow, that they could start developing it immediately. I want to thank the owners of the property from my heart. They come from a family that gave their life to Southington. The Calvinese family have over generations have given to this community. And so I want to thank them very much for allowing us the opportunity to go under what any developer would probably give them, and allowing us the right to be able to go in and enter into this contract with them. So if there's any questions, if there's any problems, if somebody, sometimes people speak off the top of their head and they get, oh, well, forget it, and money goes to money and all of this other baloney stuff. I want to tell you, this is a gift to the town of Southington. And I really hope that before you speak, you get all your facts straight. It's a wonderful presentation, and we have it right, we have it available. And if anybody would like a copy of it or what have you, please see the town manager's office. Again, thank you, everybody. Paul, did you want to say something?
Just for clarification, because I know some people might come back to this presentation and look at it because there's a lot of facts, a lot of good information here. Maybe for the town manager, Madam Chair, can you just explain, Mark, the scenario with development rights versus the purchase? If the development rights were agreed upon and the voters voted on it at this value, and I know that there's some people who might say, well, why don't we just purchase the golf course and run it as a municipal golf course? Can you talk about the potential for that in the future if they were to sell the golf course operation and we did pass the referendum and we did then own the development rights, meaning no other building could be put on that property that was different than the use there? Is there still the potential that the town could get involved in purchasing the golf course in the future if we had the development rights?
Let me backtrack. The town attorney obviously defined what development rights are. The development rights agreement would allow the owners of the property to continue with the golf course, passive recreation, and would continue to be able to, if necessary, build some improvements for the use of a golf course. Development rights are held by the town of Southington, but the actual use of the property is owned by the property owner, and that's something that could be sold to a third party as a golf course. To answer your question is that if in the future the family chose to sell the business, which is the what's left after the development rights, certainly a future council and a future town manager could talk about it at that time. I know that there's been talk over the last 25 odd years I've been here about municipal golf courses, and towns have a lot of trouble running things. One of them is a municipal golf course. So that being said, if the option ever comes up, certainly it's something that a future manager and a future council take a look at, because that is still a marketable commodity, the business of the golf course. But the development rights would be owned by the town of Southington, not the property owner.
That's great. It's important
I want to just say one thing. We've heard this presentation, and I want the presentation to stand. I don't want us to blur the effort of the presentation. So if there's a direct question, it's great, but I don't want to go on and on and on about what if. I think the presentation needs to stand, and we can answer future questions because we're going to continue to talk about it for months. I know that Val you had your hand up, Val. So I'm going to move on to you, Val.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. I just had the question about the getting a hard copy of the report, and I just wanted to thank the staff for doing such a
Mark,
such a great presentation.
Can we get a copy of this presentation to all of the council people?
Yeah, I have the presentation is going to be actually, I think it went out by email to everyone today, but certainly it's going to be posted on the website as part of your minutes. And I will post it on the website as a separate thing at this point until it goes through the process, which obviously will take about a month. But if you want a hard copy of it, anybody wants a hard copy of it, I'll make a copy for you and have Lara mail it to you. Otherwise, like I said, it's all been emailed to you and will be part of your minutes.
I want to thank Paul Czaplinski also, because Paul not only is the chairman of Open Space, but he has worked tirelessly with the owners of the property, with our departments, trying to put this together, running the meeting, doing all of that stuff. I wasn't trying to shut you down, Paul, but I really appreciated all that you've done, and I'm trying to stay focused on the presentation. And we all want to thank you very much, because it was a tremendous effort on your part too. It's because you can that you do, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. Any last questions? I want to give opportunity. Okay.
Obviously, Madam Chair, there's going to be, assuming the council moves forward, there's going to be a full-blown public hearing at the Board of Finance, and then if the council chooses a full-blown public hearing at the end of February, those votes will take place later in the meeting. So any council member or any member of the public will have ample opportunity to comment on this after they have a chance to digest a very thorough presentation. So thank you to the council. I know this is longer than most of my presentations, our presentations to you, but this is such an important issue for my staff, myself, and the council that we wanted to make sure we covered all the bases. So thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's anybody on the public, I would suggest that you wait till the public hearing that we're going to set, so that you can make your remarks after you had a chance to hear the presentation again, so that your questions can be answered appropriately at that time. So, okay, thank you very much. Let's move on, if that's all right with everybody.
Sure.
Thank you, staff, everybody. I know we mesmerize you, but we understand if you have an early day tomorrow. So,
And as a reward, Madam Chair, all staff members could go home.
yeah. Well, there you have it. Thank you, everybody. God
Okay.
bless you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, the next item I have is an opportunity for the Calendar House for a $2,500 grant for cameras for inside the Calendar House. This is for safety purposes. So obviously this is no cost to the town, but we're requesting permission to apply for the grant. Any questions on that?
Anybody have any questions on it? No, I don't think so.
The next item I have was covered under the sewer report, but this is a sewer equity for Pacer Lane. It's a very small section. Val explained it already, but I'd be happy to answer other questions on the sewer equity. The request is by Lovely Development.
Any questions?
No. Madam Chair, that concludes my report, and I don't want to shock everyone, but there will be no executive session tonight.
Well, we're all grateful for that. Thank you. Town attorney's town attorney's report. Jeremy, can you help us? Please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple items on my report tonight. The first one we've heard a lot about already from Amelia, and you heard the town manager explain it a little bit. It's an 824 referral to planning and zoning for the ordinance appropriating $4,500,000 for cost related to the acquisition of development rights, Country Club Estates, and the authorization of the issuance of $4.5 million bonds and notes to finance the appropriation. As the town manager mentioned, one of the actions tonight you're going to be voting on is to send this to the planning and zoning, of course, to make sure it's in line with their conservation and plans of development. And along with this, you're going to look for a public hearing from the finance department, as well as vote on a public hearing for the town council. So that's the first item. Does anybody have any questions about the ordinance?
I don't see.
Go
ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, I'll move on to the next one. The next thing we have here is uniform guidance procurement standards. Just briefly, some new federal uniform guidance procurement standards were enacted on July 1st, 2018. They gave municipalities a grace period to make sure our regulations in our town were in line with the new standards. I'm happy to say that most, if not all, were in line with them. Our standards are a little stricter, actually, than the federal guidelines in a lot of places. But the purpose of the new procurement standards, they concentrate on increased competition and transparency in the bidding and purchasing process. So you have a nice little spreadsheet in front of you here, I think that was in your packets, that was sent to Amelia, who's the director of finance, as well as the town manager. They looked over these, and if you approve them tonight, they will be part of our regulations, and they will be most likely posted on our website or somewhere else so that anybody can look at these before purchasing or bidding. Does anybody have any questions on this, or why we've had to redo our regulations a little bit to make it easier to read?
Yeah, Tom.
Sure. Thank you, Attorney Taylor. Just a clarification as well. In the audit report and the Board of Finance minutes, the partner from the audit firm also raised this issue as, this is kind of how things have been going for a lot of municipalities, and it's time to, update the standards. So, it's time that we do this, and thank you for bringing this up to the council, to Attorney Taylor.
Anybody else have any questions? Hearing none, let's move on.
All right, item C is the 824 referral back from planning and zoning. So you referred it last meeting over to planning and zoning. This is for 766 South Main Street, the Zama Realty property. Just going to read to you briefly the message from planning and zoning. It says at the January 19th, 2021 meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted to send a favorable recommendation regarding the 824 referral for the purchase of 766 South Main Street for the amount of $40,000. So you'll vote tonight on whether to accept the approval and favorable referral back from Planning and Zoning. And the final thing will be item D, which you will vote on approving the contract for 766 South Main Street. And that was for $40,000 from Zama Realty to the town of Southington, and that's the property that has been discussed probably ad nauseum, which has been the subject of some of the accidents into one of the buildings there, the restaurant and whatnot, that the town has proposed to buy and to put in, at this point, a parklet that has been discussed on a couple meetings, I believe.
Very good.
And if there's no questions, that's it for my report tonight, Madam Chair.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Public communications, we're going to, if anyone wishes to speak from the public, Paul, are you going to handle that?
Yep, Madam Chair, we could start with any public member who would like to speak that is on their computer can unmute themselves and can speak now. Or you can type in the chat that you'd like to speak and we can put you in line to do so. So is there any member of the public who would like to speak? Please take your computer off mute and state your name and address for the record. Going one more time. Any member of the public on the computer who wishes to speak now, please take yourself off of mute or type in the chat function and state your name and address for the record. Okay, Madam Chair, it seems as though we have nobody for public communications, and I do not see any call-in users.
Okay, very good. So it looks like we're okay. Then we're going to move on, hearing none. I'd like to move right into old business. Action on the Board of Finance. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the Board of Finance.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any other deletions or anyone voting against this matter? I see none. It's a unanimous vote.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
the next three need to be roll call votes, please.
Yes. Item B, action on referral of the 824 to Planning and Zoning on the Country Club Estates Ordinance. I need
Make
a motion.
to approve, Madam Chair.
Approves. You make the motion, Paul, right?
I'll second
that,
that.
Madam Chair. Mike Del Santo.
Go ahead.
Oh, wait a minute.
No, Mike Del Santo.
Del Santo, second.
Okay, Del Santo seconds. Okay, very good. Could we call the roll on it?
Madam Chair, can I just
Yes?
have one comment on this?
Sure.
I just wanted, just for a point of addition on the last thing, we mentioned that the Calvinese family has been an integral part of the community and part of the discussions. I also just wanted to put it on the record that as part of the golf course, the Kastner family is also involved. And they too have been integral parts of the community and very gracious in this discussion as well. So I wanted to recognize the Kastner family along with the Calvinese family. Thank you,
so
Madam
much,
Chair.
Paul. That is correct. Thank you for.
Madam Chair, this is Mike Del Santo. I don't know if there's for a discussion, but I was sad that the staff left. I thought they were going to stick around. I just wanted to say what a wonderful presentation as well. Phenomenal job. Kudos. That was first class. Awesome job by all the staff members.
I'm sure they'll read the minutes. They'll get you. They'll get it, Mike. They'll read the minutes.
I'm sure they read the minutes. Nightside table reading tomorrow night.
Yeah. Any other comments? Let's call the roll on this, please, Kathy.
Morelli,
Yes, great job.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Pulis,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Absolutely.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Fano.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I'm so excited about this. The whole council is in agreement. Thank you so much, everybody. Item C, action on referral for public hearing to the Board of Finance for the Country Club Estates Ordinance. And I would need a motion setting the public hearing, I believe, Mark, for February 27th. I had it.
Well, you're talking about the
Chair, I'll
Board of
make that
Finance.
motion.
All you're doing is just, you're referring to the Board of Finance requesting that they do a public hearing. That's all you have to do.
Okay, we don't set the date then. That's fine.
Not their date, no.
No, we set our date.
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair. Mike Del Santo.
Motion. Who's going to second it?
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Okay, Tom Lombardi seconding it. Could you call the roll, please, Kathy?
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Pulis,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Barty,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes, item passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Item D, action on scheduling a public hearing for Country Club Estates ordinance.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Mark.
Staff recommends February 22nd, 2021 at 7 p.m.
So moved.
Thank you, Chris.
Second.
Somebody who seconded it?
Second. Tom.
Oh,
I'll second that.
okay, very good. Let's call the roll on that, please.
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Pulis,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo, Paolo,
Yes.
Barty,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Item E, action on the Calendar House CARES Act funding opportunity.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Chris. Second, I see
Second.
that hand up for second. Very good. Any discussion on this?
Roll call, please, Madam Chair.
Yep, absolutely. Would you please call then, Kathy? Would you call the roll, Kathy, on
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Pulis,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo, DiPaolo,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. Well, item F, action on the 824 for 766 South Main Street.
So moved.
Paul? Who's
So
who-
moved.
Second,
I'm
Madam
sorry.
Chair, Del Santo.
Oh, Del Santo and Chris Poulos seconded it. Okay, very good.
Oh, Mr. Poulos made the motion, Madam Chair. Mike Del Santo made the second.
I'm sorry, Chris. Mr.
No
Poulos
problem.
made the
Forgive-
motion and Mike Del Santo seconded it. Thank you very much. On this situation, I think it would be good if we call the roll as well. So, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Morelli,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Pulis,
Yes.
Chaplinsky,
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DiPaolo,
Yes.
Lombardi,
Yes.
Triano.
Yes. Item G, action on the contract for the South Main Street property.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second, Madam Chair, Mike Del Santo.
Thank you, Mike. Mike seconds it. It could.
Madam Chair, may I just make a comment?
Sure.
It appears we'll have a vote of approval on this motion, which is great. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the collaboration amongst this council on making this happen. As Mr. Taylor, Attorney Taylor mentioned, we've had lots of discussions about this parcel, and I think it's going to be a great acquisition for the town. And I would be remiss if I didn't just give a shout out or a recognition to a former Councilwoman Dawn Maselli and former Councilman Barry, who, as members of the Public Works Committee who were involved in the Plantsville Safety Improvement Project, really got the ball rolling on this and passed the torch to me when they stepped off the council. I thank them for their leadership. And I thank this council for just a healthy discussion and true collaboration between our members to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. You make a very good point in that as we go, we learn that we move forward, not just in 2 years or 4 years, but each council, we try to build on the prior council to make Southington a better place. And so you bring up a very good point that it's one council building on the work of the other council, and those that are coming after us are looking to us to have that foundation for them. So that's a very good point. All right.
Chair, one more comment as well.
Yeah.
On this contract, thank you. And I think we touched upon this in the past, but I just want to make sure, and I do appreciate the Director of Public Works sending the memo to the town manager that was forwarded to us. regarding the intentions for the safety improvements and the lighting. I want to make sure that I get it on the record that as soon as we purchase this property, that we will not be allowing any parking on this site. Maybe it's a question or confirmation for the town attorney. Assuming that all 8 of us on this call are in favor of that idea. So maybe the town attorney could comment on that statement.
Jeremy, do you have any comments on that?
I would have to talk to Public Works about that. Obviously, they would probably be taking the lead on that, on restricting any of the uses as soon as we buy the property. But I can be in touch with Annette and make sure that whatever precautions we need to take, we can move forward.
Because
If I may, once it becomes town property, we would post it. Obviously, it seems like that's the council's desire. We post it, no parking, and then it's enforced through the PD. So it wouldn't be a zoning violation at that point because the town owns the property. So if we post it for no parking, then it would be no parking. But obviously, we give notice to all the adjacent property owners and give them a little bit of notice, and then we post it. So Jeremy and myself will talk to Annette and the PD. But if that's the will of the council, we'll make it happen.
That was my intention of my statement, and if anyone is opposed to that, I would have them speak up, please.
Madam Chair?
Yep, go ahead now.
So I would just make sure, as Mark said, I would just really make sure to speak with the property owners, because there is, there's been a practice of parking there, for different businesses. So as long as they have proper notice and they're not just shut out of there right away, but just give them some notice just as a courtesy, I think.
I think
that would be the plan.
Was very concerned about liability once we take it on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was very important. So we'll just make sure that everybody knows. Mark, make sure we get signs big enough so people can see them, and also just to let the prior property owners know. I mean, it's just the right thing to do.
Very good, Madam Chair. We'll make it happen.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Are we ready to call the vote? Kathy, would you call the vote, please? Voice vote on this, please.
Morel,
Yes.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Folds,
Yes.
Yes.
Del Santo,
Yes.
DePaula, yes. Lombardi,
Yes.
everybody needs to be freezing up. Triano,
Who's after? Oh, and me? Yes. I wasn't sure where we were on the call. All right, very good. Let's go on to item H before we all freeze up again. Item H is the action on the uniform guidance procurement standards. Do I have a motion?
Mike Del Santo.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Val. You seconded it. Let's just, all those, is there any discussion on this? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed to this matter? Very good. Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. And the action on the sewer equity.
Motion approved, Madam Chair. Mike Del Santo.
Yep, Paul Chaplinsky, are you seconding it?
Yep, sure. Thank you, Madam
Very
Chair.
good. Is there any discussion on this matter? I think everybody's looking at the clock on the wall. I think that's what's going on. Is there any other discussion on this matter? I understand. Hearing none, all those in favor of this motion, will you signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Is there anyone that opposes this motion or needs to abstain from this motion? Hearing none, I see this as a unanimous vote. Thank you so very much. New business, our tax refunds. Val, do you have them?
Yes, I do. Madam Chair, I will make a motion that we approve the tax refunds as outlined in our packet.
Do I have a second?
Second, it's Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Jim Morelli seconds it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition to this motion? Thank you very much. We're going on to item B. The number 1 item is the alternate on the ethics board. Looking for a motion to table.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to table that item. Mike,
Very good. Yep. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second, Madam Chair.
Okay. I think Paul seconded it first. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed to this motion? Hearing none, thank you very much. Item 2, the ethics board, an ethic board's appointment to replace Andy Mead, like anybody could ever replace Andy Mead. But I do need a name. Who's going to make
all order?
All order indeed. So
I'm proud to nominate Joe Markley for that position.
And I will second, Madam Chair.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Second, Mrs. Markley. Aye. Aye.
Yeah. And anyone opposed to Mr. Markley? I'm so used to calling him Senate, Mr. Markley. So very good. Congratulations, Joe. It's good to have you aboard, and I'm sure you'll be a wonderful addition while you try to fill Andy's shoes, which can never happen. But we thank Andy for all of his years of service, from the town council all the way through the ethics board and all of the subcommittees that he served on in between. And it's not goodbye, of course. It's just later. We'll see you. But he's got some travel responsibilities. He can't continue to serve the ethics board. So, hearing none, could I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move, Madam Chair. Mike Del Santo.
8 people raised their hand.
Horseshack. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Listen, everybody, it was a long meeting, but boy, was it a good one. Thank you, everybody who's here.
Night, everyone.
Night, everybody.
Night, everyone.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye-bye.